This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willer for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
All right. Hey, watch your step there. I think some of the lights are out.
Oh, thanks. I didn't even know the house Misdirected had a sub-basement.
I'm not sure if I've ever been in there either, but Phil said to meet here before the show.
Fair enough. Wow, that is a big door. Let me give you a hand with that.
Okay, in we go. This is bigger than I expected. I didn't expect all the torches either.
As you enter the sub-basement, a low haze of smoke obscures the ceiling.
Why is he narrating our entrance?
Long gaming tables made of thick, polished hardwood are arranged on the cobblestone floor.
Those are some nice tables. We should use those more often.
Oh, good. He's already got snacks.
Plates of Timbits are arranged near each seat, and cups of brew sit steaming on the hardwood surface.
Intricate set piece, detailed narration, plenty of sugary power-ups. All we need is a rockin' soundtrack, and you know what that means.
That's right. It's time for the epic boss battle!
I would have expected more chains from Phil.
That's fair.
And with that, welcome to the 413th episode of the Misdirected Mark Podcast. Tonight we tackle how to make your big boss battles even more epic. Along the way, we'll take comments and suggestions from the chat room for life before delving into the after show. But first, my name is Jerry.
My name is Phil.
And I am Old Man Logan. All right, gang. You know what time it is. Before we can head in, we got to do a temperature check, make sure everybody's cool. Phil, how you feeling?
Rocking a slight headache. I've been kind of fighting it off all day. But nothing that's going to hinder me for the show tonight. Taking a leave and drinking some caffeine, so I'm hoping one of those two is going to knock it out before we get too far into the show. But otherwise, good. Did some bike riding. Feeling pretty good. I don't know. Could probably sleep more, but I don't know. That's probably a thing I could say on any given week. Yeah, but otherwise, I'm feeling okay. I mean, I'm rocking a little bit of anxiety over, U.S. government stuff, but I don't know. That's, I don't know. There's nothing that can be done about that. Like it's going to be a little while before that, is a thing that doesn't induce anxiety. Anyway, wrap that up. I'm fine. I'm ready to rock. How about you, Bob? How you feeling?
I am rocking a righteous headache, because my neck is a royal hot mess. Aside from that, I took some ibuprofen and I got an icy hot roll on the back of my neck. And it's kind of been mellow since right around the time we started prepping for the show. But that out of the way, everything else physically I feel pretty good. Mentally, not too bad. Same as you, a little bit of anxiety brewing for some of the stuff, but no existential dread, and no major crises in my brain at the moment. So yay,
yay!
How about you, Jer?
This week is going good. Last week, I took the last 2 days of the week off as vacation days, which of course meant that things happened that I had to go into work both days. And it was a rough couple days, and then this was my weekend without gaming, and so I was kind of in a little bit of a funk on Saturday. But I pulled myself out Sunday and got my bike out for the first time in 4 years, and did some bike riding. Did a half mile a couple days, and did a mile and a half a couple days. And my limits are mostly asthma related. Once I get going for a while, I suddenly need to stop and breathe and so on. But I'm feeling better, and also rocking a new diet, so dealing with adjusting food and knowing when I'm hungry and when I'm not eating crap stuff and so on. So overall, though, I'm past the hump, so now I'm feeling better and looking forward to this week and looking forward to the show. So keep moving on.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, moving us on into the lobby and getting us to talk about just one thing. Just one thing going on. Bob, what's your one thing?
So anybody who's currently watching us live and anybody who's looking at this on YouTube next week when it comes out, there's a new look for the stream. Woohoo! I spent some time since the last live show. I actually lost all the settings in Streamlabs OBS and it did not resync from the cloud. So I said, you know what? Since I have to remake it all from scratch, I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity and do some fancy stuff. So I created a frame for everything and changed some stuff around, and hopefully you enjoy the new look. I think we're all bigger. I think we're all closer.
We're also should be better lit.
Yes.
We all went and bought the same ring lights.
Yep.
So we've got the ring lights going that will hopefully make, like, I feel like I still look pretty dark. Like I'm looking at me, but I can't tell if that's dark. I wonder if just a lighter background would actually bring that up. I may just mess with it really quick.
I know. I've got a shine on my head because of the overhead light where I'm sitting, so I need to get a dimmer, bring that down a little bit. But
no, look at me. I'm just like dark as hell. Like it doesn't matter what background you put on. I just like whatever. I'm going back to my hacker's background. I'm inside the Gibson still.
But yeah.
Anyway, I think first of all, I think template looks good. And for some of you who might have gotten an alert on Saturday that we were going live, that was just Bob and I screwing around.
We were doing a little test to see how it looked. And
Schmitty and John showed up just to chat, but we were mostly just kind of messing around with the template and just kind of getting things formatted.
Yep. All right. Jerry, what's your one thing?
My one thing is Lower Decks. Episode 10 came out this week. It was so good. Oh my God. It was better than some episodes of the longer series. Without giving any spoilers, it made canon some things that were not before. Had a really good plot. Had some throwbacks and some guest voices. And if you are not watching Lower Decks and you like Star Trek, I really suggest you watch it.
I gotta
it's fun.
I gotta either renew my subscription or sneak in or something like that. Like I gotta go watch them.
It's an easy watch too. It's 10 episodes. The episode 10 was the season finale. They're half an hour shows, so 20 some minutes.
I haven't heard anything about them that won't make me laugh. Like I'm a huge fan of Star Trek. Like all the inside jokes. Like I've seen so many of them on Twitter. Like the Spock helmet was in one of the episodes, and
I'll just say episode 10 makes me really want them to do another series in this vein, just more seriously. Like I would same art style and everything because they've got it down. I would watch a TNG reboot or a DS9 reboot or anything else, or just do little one-off episodes because they've got it down. They've got the look, they've got the feel, they've got the pacing. They've got the storylines, and they're tight stories. They get a lot of story and a lot of character building out in each episode.
Nice.
Yeah, the writers did a really nice job of it.
Yeah. So, Phil, what was your one thing?
I think my one thing this week is not that it's going to be very original, but Minecraft. I've hit a really good clip in this Stone Block mod pack where I am now past wanting for anything. Okay. And so I'm playing all the end game stuff, which is some of it's actually still pretty hard to assemble, like to get some of the final end game components together, because unlike our packs have a lot of early to mid game, and then it kind of like there's nothing to do once you hit end game. Like you have to come up with your own stuff to do. This pack has a couple of mod packs at the end that are impossible to get to until you've like actually played into the pack for a while. And I really like it. Like they arrive at the right time. Like they arrive at the point where I no longer want to be concerned about resources. So now I don't have to be. And so part of that has been, I'm still progressing those higher mod packs, but I'm also now like rebuilding everything. Because I'm just like, well, I don't have to be like with resources not being an object. How do I really want this place to function? And so I've been rebuilding rooms, and like I took my little lava generator setup that I had that was like built into the corner of my base when I couldn't afford enough material to spread out. And I like went and built a room and made 6 copies of that thing. So I like, instead of generating like 1,000 RF, now like the whole thing generates like 10,000 RF.
Nice.
Like just like one giant room of these lava generation. Like anyway, it's super fun. And I'm really digging. I'm going to play this pack all the way to the end. Like there's a final boss battle, and killing the final boss gets you some components that you need for the final builds of the game. And I'm just going to play all the way through. Like I'm going to complete all the challenges in it. And I'm going to kill the final boss and all that. And then when that's done, I will say goodbye to this pack. It will have been fun. And I think that there are some mods that I think I would like to pull out and put into our game. And I do think that probably, since we play so often, having some end game stuff would be really good. Like it would keep some of us engaged past the easy parts.
Probably not a bad idea.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my one thing.
Cool.
Oh, all right. So moving on to announcements. I'll just plug it really quick. The DS9 watch party continues. The details for it are in the forums, and I want to go into it too deep. I will say this. This week, we are concluding season 3, which is a perfectly fine season. If you have already watched DS9 and were like, oh, maybe I'm thinking of jumping in, you would want to jump in next week at the beginning of season 4. Beginning of season 4, huge. It's a perfect place to jump in.
Yes, it is.
And join us for the remaining 3 seasons, which will carry us into the winter. One other one, which I will announce, and then we'll see how fast Bob can scramble to do this on the feed. Thirsty Sword Lesbians Kickstarter kicked off today. It's being published by Evil Hat, and in conjunction with the beginning of the Kickstarter, She's a Super Geek dropped their first episode of Thirsty Sword Lesbians, so you can actually listen to it and back it. I highly recommend backing it. First of all, it's being published by Evil Hat, which means that it's a slam dunk. Evil Hat's publishing game is top notch. Their approach to this is really good. They're doing the tiers are really affordable, and they're doing POD coupons.
Nice.
So they're going to do it as a straight POD coupon. But the PDF, I backed it for 15. I think like, it's ridiculous. Like there's like, if you're looking for queer RPG content, and Thirsty Sword Lesbians is plenty queer, you definitely want to back this.
And for those of you watching the show, I've got the Kickstarter up on the screen.
Yay, there you go.
And now I'm going to turn it off again. Boom.
Yeah. I was hoping that if I just talked enough, you'd be able to, because we didn't have it on the list.
It took me like 4 seconds, because I already had the Kickstarter page up. I just needed to search for Thirsty.
That's awesome.
And those of you watching the stream, the links for the Kickstarter and the SassGeek episode are in the chat room.
Yes.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. So yeah, should definitely back it. I know I did. So excellent.
Yep. All right, quick note for Phil.
Yeah.
Future shows, you're going to want to take your ring light and raise it up a little higher, I think, because when you lean your head back as you talk, it's coming into your glasses.
No, yeah. I'll try not to look up.
That's all right. Just for future, we'll clean that up.
Yep.
Still tweaking things to make the show as good as possible. All right.
We're ring light new technology now, so now we have to mess with ring light.
So those were the announcements and such. You know what that means. It's time for a workshop. Gird yourself, Phil.
I'm ready.
All right.
Workshop, it's epic boss battle time. Bring in the the boss to the workshop. It's going to be the big one, the fight, the throwdown. It's everything at stake. The world is coming to an end in the workshop.
All right.
Workshop.
Cool. All right, Jerry, why don't you light us up here?
All right, we're going to talk this week about epic boss battles. Once again, this week's topic comes from Cabano, who wanted to know our thoughts about epic boss battles. Now, it's been a while since we tackled this topic like this. We thought we'd take a fresh look at how to make your epic boss fights more exciting, more interesting, and more engaging. So we're going to look at this both in terms of more traditional games and story games as well.
Yeah, I'm going to say that I think we'll talk to both points of those. Like I wrote, like when I was writing this, I was like, wasn't sure if we were going to do specific call outs, but I think that most of what we have here is applicable to either style game.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in order to get this whole thing going, we are going to need to define a few terms for the evening. And for that, Phil, I'm going to need to do this.
Behold, you are in the presence of Definition Panda.
All right, epic bumper.
Alrighty.
You gotta love it.
Our definitions for tonight will obviously start with the word epic, right? Particularly impressive or remarkable. But the one I like even better is heroic or grand in scale of character. I think that is what we're really talking about tonight is grand in scale. There are lots of boss battles in games, but the epic boss battle is a very different thing. Boss is our next term. This is a form of opposition that is often noted for being the most powerful creature in the arc, be it story or campaign. And it is often confronted at or near the climax of the arc. Its defeat usually signifies the end of some kind of threat and a route to the opposition that the boss commands, right? So if you defeat the boss, its minions scatter or those kinds of things. All right, set piece encounter is another term that we're going to be using tonight, right? That's an encounter that is more elaborate than other encounters in the story, often has unique terrain, situations. If you're doing props and minis, this might be a case where even if you don't do props or minis, sometimes this is when you do props and minis. So for instance, if you're me and you do a set piece encounter, it might mean you put a few things on the table. If you're Jerry, it might mean that like the table is loaded. And I've played some Savage Worlds games like Savage, like if you play with Jerry is a Savage Worlds GM. Like if you play with Savage Worlds GMs, they often have maps and minis and stuff like that. But I like played this one game where like the epic set piece encounter was like a whole, like they rolled it out on a cart and put it on the table. Like it was literally, it was epic, right? Okay. Another term we're going to be using, and it's a term we use all the time on the show, so I'll update us on it, is narrative positioning, right? When a player describes the actions of their character in a way to convey a specific action, location, and or intent, right? Often with the goal of a specific outcome, could be like a specific action or a bonus, triggering a move, those kinds of things, right? Narrative positioning. And the last one I'll bring up, in case people aren't familiar with it, is the 12 hit point dragon. This is a reference to Dungeon World. In the Dungeon World rules, the stats for the dragon has 12 hit points. But because of the narrative positioning, you actually can't do damage to the dragon until you've dealt with its armor. So you need the narrative positioning to kind of overcome the armor before you can put a point of damage on this thing. And it's one of the reasons why the 12-point dragon works. But what it does, and I think we talk about this later in the episode, is that it really highlights the importance of narrative positioning in Dungeon World.
Absolutely. All right, so with that foundation, what is the secret to epic boss battles, Jerry?
Epic, epic, epic. What I mean by the 3 E's: have an epic villain, have epic stakes, and then have an epic battle to go with those. In order to truly have an epic boss battle, you need to have all 3 of these things.
Right. An epic villain is going to be someone that the players have reasons to hate. Like, not like a little hate, but like a Mitch McConnell kind of hate. right? Like something that like just seethes and boils inside you, like just eating you every day that you see a stupid face on Twitter. I'm sorry. Anyway, yes.
Yeah.
So you want a villain that the players really hate, and that villain also has the mechanics to make them a true challenge, right? So if they're if they're mechanically like weak, it's not going to really be that epic.
No. Secondly, the epic stakes mean there's some dire consequences for the players if they can't stop the villain's plans. Not like, oh no, he gets away, but something closer to like the end of the world, or somebody important dies, or he opens a portal to the nether realms, or something along that line. That's very important. There's got to be a reason why this fight is important.
And the epic battle means that the encounter where the characters confront the epic villain to prevent the epic stakes from occurring needs to be exciting and has beat changes and has something for everyone. And like, there's a lot of shit going on to make this an epic battle.
Mm-hmm. So if you don't have all three of these things, consider what's going to happen.
Right. So with a lesser villain, right? If the villain is not reviled, like is just not, hated by the players, then they're not really going to care about fighting him that much, right? Because they'll just be like, it's Baron von Badass, like whatever. Or if the villain's kind of mechanically weak or flawed, then when they actually do confront him, they're just going to roll right over him. Like just, oh, that was easier than we thought, right? Just, and then they're done. Not that up.
I think it's important to state there's a difference between the players hating the villain and the players just being annoyed by the villain and wanting this over.
Absolutely.
Those are two different things.
Absolutely.
I've played it. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was going to cite that.
I've played in both campaigns.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree, right? Like, when I say hate, I mean that the characters and through Bleed, the players hate that villain.
With the fiery passion of 1,000 burning suns.
Like a Mitch McConnell kind of hate.
Yeah.
Or a Lindsey Graham kind of hate.
Yeah.
I could go on, but I won't.
That's it.
Yes, you could. Now, the second thing we have to talk about is lesser stakes. If there's lesser stakes, if the stakes aren't important, stakes. There won't be tension or drama of making sure to stop the villain. It's, if we don't stop him this time and he gets away, no big deal.
Yeah.
What happens if he, I'll give you an example. But what if he burns down the Louvre? Well, that's okay because we're trying to stop the end of the world.
Right.
Those are different stakes.
Yeah.
And that's important. You need to get the tension and the stakes and make sure that they're stakes that your players care about. And number 3, Phil?
With a lesser battle, the encounter is either going to be flat, right? It's just going to be kind of like, okay, well, we run in the room and kick his ass. And it's going to lack hard choices, right? And we're going to talk about when we get, we're going to break all 3 of these down. We're going to talk about why a lack of hard choices is will make for a kind of battle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. All right. But when we bring all these three things together, pardon my coffee, then we're going to really have an epic boss battle, something the players are going to remember and talk about for a while.
Okay, so starting at the top of your list, Phil, what do we need to do to make an epic villain?
Right. So when we talk about our epic villain, we got to look at 2 facets of the villain. We got to talk about the villain from a narrative point of view, meaning we got to talk about their personality, their story, the things that they've done. Are they interesting and are they compelling to the characters? And then we got to talk about them mechanically, right? We got to talk about whatever game you're playing. How do you have them statted up? And how are they a challenge? And that's going to depend a lot on what you're playing, but that is still important, right? So to start with, let's talk about the narrative part of making an epic villain. Here's a list of tips. It's never a complete list of tips, but here's a list of tips that will help you make your villain more epic.
First of all, start with a good description. The description should be evocative. It should be memorable to the players. It should say something about the villain. For example, the Demon King was 12 foot tall with a jet black carapace, glowing red eyes, and a head topped with a crown of horns. He wore no garments and occasionally carried a sword made of the same dark, shiny material as his carapace.
Yeah, I mean, epic, right? Like big and, you know, okay. Personality. Your villain should also have a personality that is evocative, right? Are they sinister? Are they manic? Are they always in control? Are they super cool? Like whatever it is, right? One of my epic villains was from our Tales from the Loop game, which was Lena, who was a rogue scientist from the Loop. She spoke condescendingly to everyone with bursts of outrage and jealousy when she was frustrated. But she had a soft spot for her nephew, who she treated better than everyone else in the game. But she was, you know, she exuded that personality.
Yep.
Next up, Jared. You have to have a decent motivation. The villain has to have a reason to do the things they do, and very, very rarely should it just be evil for evil's sake. There are some exceptions, but it should be something there. It's going to be revenge, lost love, etc. So, example, in my Mage Lands campaign, Dargon Abed, the lead scion of the gear, hates the heroes as much as they hate him. He's used lies, bribery, and murder to rise to the top of his organization, but along the way, the heroes thwarted several of his plans, and when they reveal his involvement in the Ghost Dog conspiracy, it cost him the love of Minia, the only woman he cared about. All of his achievements mean nothing now without her, and he will only find peace by destroying the heroes himself.
Oh, that's good, man. That's
good stuff right there.
He's big, he's big, he's evil, he's nasty, and he has a plan, but now his plan involves killing the heroes off because they cost him the love of the woman he loved.
That one's huge. Like that one is, I mean, that is the fiery hate motivation, right? Like I tried to do all these things. It cost me the person that I've loved most in the world. And now I will make you pay, you know, if it's the only thing I do. Oh, so good.
Right.
Exposure. Your epic villain should not have its battle in the first time the players encounter it. For the most part, I could make some arguments of how you could do that. And maybe we'll do it in the question and answer part, but you really want your epic villain to appear either directly or indirectly in multiple sessions. You want to marinate the player's hatred, right? Like you want them to keep showing up or proof that their hand has been in things that have hurt the players so that the players can really like build that disgust towards them.
Yep. And then lastly, you want to make it personal. The evil things the villain does have to be of some personal interest to the players. It could be in their first encounter or later encounters, but to really get the hate flowing, you want to make it personal. They should start acting against the NPCs or other things in the characters' lives in a way that makes the players hate them for the personal things they've done. Now, a caveat, this does not mean you go around fridging people and nerfing things and undoing the players' hard work. You simply do things that make them work against them. And that's an important line to draw. And
fridging is a weak move, right? Don't fridge anyone. But, you know, foreclose on the character's uncle's bar, right? Like that's a good gut punch, right? Get their brother disqualified from joining the military. Like, again, like these are like good ways to bring it up. And I will mention one that Chromatic Chameleon mentioned in the chat room very early in the episode, which is the betrayal. Like this epic villain was once part of your group and then betrays you. Like that is a very quick route. That is a very quick route to despising a character. That is, we'll call that the Steve maneuver from the Italian Job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
After you see what Steve does by betraying the team, like it's pretty obvious. Like there's only one path through the rest of the movie.
Yes.
So that's good. Okay, good. So now, that's tips on how to make the villain, from a narrative perspective, really epic. But we also have to actually address the mechanical side of this, right? And this one's going to be hard to detail with any really solid tips because it's going to have a lot to do with the system you're playing. But we've done our best. We're going to give you the points you need to hit, and then you'll need to figure out in your system how you kind of get to those points. So here's a few tips.
So first, your villain has to be tough. However this is expressed in the system you're playing. The character needs to be hard to hit, hard to kill, some combination of both. But this is going to be important for the last in a battle against a group focused on killing the big boss. This can be extra hit points, it can be extra bends, it can be a number of different things that are going to occur. But you want to make sure that that villain is going to last more than the first opening volley from the heroes.
Yeah. I mean, again, you want to talk about wah, 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 right? Like, have your hero go out in the first couple hits. It's not epic. Your villain needs to be competent.
Villain.
Yes. Sorry, I said hero, right? I meant your villain.
Yes, you did.
Your villain also needs to be competent. They need to possess abilities, skills, powers, whatever it is in your system that makes them as good, if not slightly better, than your characters, right? That they're facing. The players need to see this, right? Like they need demonstrations of this so that they know they're dealing with someone who's going to give them a run for their money. And that is going to ratchet up tension.
Mm-hmm. They also have to be able to pack a punch. Their attacks should hit hard, and they should hit in a way that make the players take notice. This is going to show competency, but it's also going to raise the tension, so the players can't afford to just keep getting hit over and over and over again. It doesn't mean kill off players right off the bat, but it does mean do things that make the players realize that another couple hits like this, and they're going to be in major trouble.
Yeah, because otherwise, I mean, in most cases, your characters outnumber the boss, and so if your boss isn't packing a punch, they could just get them, right? Like they could just rush them, 5-1. Yeah, get her. That's your plan. All right. Lastly, and I think this one's important, and it's a little extra work, but I think if you do it correctly, this is what makes the mechanical part special. Your epic boss should highlight some part of the system that you're playing, right? So they should be built in a way that shows off or exemplifies the system. And it could be like a cool power, it could be like a cool combination of things. Whatever it is, it should be like, this villain was not only did we despise this villain, but like they were so good when we got to the encounter. And this is where I'll highlight the 12 hit point dragon for Dungeon World, right? Like the 12 hit point dragon says everything, like it is a statement about Dungeon World. And it's why that encounter can be, it can be super tense. And then yet it's like, well, you only got to do 12 hit points of damage to it, but you got to be able to damage it. And that's like kind of where the epic part for that kind of battle for the 12 hit point dragon comes in. But whatever your system is, you want your character to be like a good example or representative of that system.
Awesome. All right, so now that we have our epic villain, tell us about the stakes, Jerry.
All right. To have a good battle, you're going to need some epic stakes. The battle is going to take place should have something meaningful in it, beyond whether you just beat the villain or not. For example, the Fantastic Four could burst into Dr. Doom's castle any time, but it's much more interesting if they do it was try to open a rift down to hell to find his mother again. The stakes for this encounter should flow from the villain's motivation and from their competency. And as you're looking for these stakes, you're going to be looking for them to be epic. What this means is that if the villain is successful, something profound is going to happen in the game world itself. And at this point, don't be shy to put the very safety of the world at stake. For example, Bill?
Yeah, destroy something huge, a kingdom, a ruler, all of magic. Like, don't like something big. Change the tide of a war. Like, if the villain gets this plan off and the Death Star becomes operational, the rebels are done. Right? Like, epic. Let them discover some forbidden knowledge or powers that'll actually make them too powerful to stop. If we don't stop the villain now, we'll never be able to stop them. Open a portal to somewhere, another dimension, back in time, like something, like something that if the villain is able to reach into that other place, bad things are going to happen. Release or summon something that's way worse than the villain. I mean, this is like half of Call of Cthulhu, right? Like this is the summoning of, whatever. But summoning is a great tension builder. That's like, those stakes are huge. Like if we open up a rift to let this, the destroyer of worlds into our realm. Epic.
I'd like to say that if you're looking for suggestions on those sorts of things, I would suggest looking at Pathfinder and the first probably 108 issues of their adventure path, because each 6-issue adventure path always ended with a big boss battle, and each one always had something major at stake. One of the Rune Lords was coming back. We are gonna drop a meteor onto the center of the continent and basically provide nuclear winter for the next couple of years. We're gonna unleash the son of one of the gods of destruction, and so on. And everyone had those, and also talked about what to do if the players fail.
I will also say that DCC modules every DCC module ends with one of these. Like,
yes.
Although not always one for you to completely win. Sometimes your win is like, well, we stopped it, but also we had to run away.
I think some of them just been, hey, we got out alive with a bag of treasure, and we're happy.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So then add this and make it personal. Once you get to the point where you've made this problem too big to ignore, take it one step further, make it personal, put NPCs or locations or groups directly into that harm's way. They're not just going to summon a greater demon. They're going to summon a greater demon in the middle of the town where your family lives. And ultimately, what's going to happen is the stakes are going to come from your game. But when it comes to the encounter, think really big. Think really big at these stakes. It should be clear to the players that there's no way that they can just sit by and let what's going to occur.
Absolutely. All right, then. We now have a villain, and we know what's at stake, so we've reached the point where the characters have to intervene to stop them. How do we make this battle epic, Phil?
Yep. So epic battles are ones that create numerous interesting decisions for the players. Right? So a battle in an empty 60 by 60 room with just the characters and the villain.
Boring.
Like, that's not interesting, right? Like, as opposed to like fighting in a ruined wasteland where random portals open to other dimensions that keep opening and closing and letting creatures in all throughout the battle.
Sure.
Right? I mean, literally think of every end fight in Star Wars or Marvel, right? Like both franchises do a really good job of making epic battles. And showing, like, kind of highlighting all those decisions. Sorry, Jerry, I took that line right out from under.
Okay, keep going.
The epic battle needs a lot going on, right? Because we need the players making hard decisions between the thing that they want to do, which is almost always attacking the villain, or stopping whatever the villain's trying to do. As well as we want other things to be going on that also pull on them to make decisions on, right? So if all you have to do is like, do I punch the villain or do I try to close the portal? That's not bad. Do I punch the villain? Do I try to close the portal? Or do I try to stop the minion that's going to throw my sister into the portal, right? Now we're moving up the chain here, right? Because now we've got some really hard decisions to make. So we want that because hard decisions are drama, right? And an epic battle is a battle that is dramatic. We need players like wringing their hands over what to do, which decision to make. We need them worrying about, can I take another hit from this villain? What happens if the counter ticks up another notch on the ritual? What are they doing with, those bystanders, my sister or whatever, right? Like drama, as Senda would say. So here are some thoughts that we have on how to make your battle more epic, i.e. more dramatic.
Well, first of all, just have some interesting set piece items. Have interesting terrain, cool ways for players to use their abilities, interesting NPCs to deal with, all the things that are going to be going on around the players while they're busy throwing fireballs at the big bad guy.
Yeah, and I will say, I should have put this in the notes, but I will say, like, if you normally don't play with maps, props, or whatever, and it's set piece fight day, and you bring out some maps and props, it also focuses attention.
Yeah.
Right, because players recognize, like, oh, we're doing something different today, right? Like, and they're like, they dial in a bit more.
Yeah.
The next one is, within your big epic battle, you need to have spaces for role-playing opportunities, right? We need to change beats from just rolling and attacking to conversations and interactions so that we can give the battle more flavor. And while I don't always think it's one of the best movies, I will say that I think the battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan has a lot of this going on, right? Like they have a little talk before they fight, but they're yelling at each other. I mean, like the ending is that, heartbreaking ending where Obi-Wan, like,
you were the chosen one.
Right. I mean, I always make fun of it, right? I will always make fun of I have the high ground line, but these are, this is, at first they were like brothers, then they were, master and apprentice, and like it's all just gone to hell. So have those moments where they can have interactions. It's important.
Yeah. All right. The next thing you need is complications. You need to have innocents, bystanders, people rescued, objects to be protected, anything that keeps the decision points of, do I help these people or attack the villain, moving around. Think about the Battle of New York in the first Avengers movie. When the bad guys are attacking, the Avengers are doing more than just trying to fight off the bad guys. They're trying to rescue people, make strategic changes, keep the villains contained to one area. The whole plot about trying to keep them between a certain number of streets and keep the enemy focused on them and keeping Loki pissed off. All of that worked really well and kept the adventure being much more epic than just, hey, watch the Avengers smack a bunch of mooks around.
Yeah, and I'll tack back onto that, the role-playing opportunity, right? In the middle of all of that, we have the moment with Tony Stark and Loki.
Yeah, and then a little bit later, you have the moment between Loki and Thor.
Yeah.
You drop some of these beats where they're having their role-playing.
Yep, absolutely. Another one, which Jerry, when we were putting notes together, made sure that I did not forget, which is spotlight the characters. So this epic fight is going to be either the climax or near the climax or the actual climax of your arc and possibly of your campaign, which might mean that your campaign's ending after this. So you want to make sure that every character has an opportunity to do something cool. And so you may have to engineer this encounter a little to make sure that's true.
Yep. This is especially important in games where the game is more than just about fighting, because you'll often have characters who really don't have a chance to damage the main villain. But if they have a chance to do something else cool or help out, it makes a huge difference. I've both played in running games where you realize that the final end boss is really between villain A and heroes 1 or 1 and 2, and that's it. And everybody else is just basically standing there to absorb damage. And you don't want to have that. You want to have something where everybody's doing something really cool. And look at what your players like to do, and sometimes look at that one ability that your player has they never get a chance to use.
Yeah, and your players may know that that's how the battle's going to go. Like, for instance, if the epic villain is Bob's brother, right? Bob's character's brother. Like, we may all know in the party that, look, when this thing goes down, like, Bob's probably going to be the one who has to kill his brother, right? In this epic story. Like, he's betrayed he destroyed the family. He like sundered their dwarven halls. Like, this is it. Like, these two are throwing down for the last time. A good GM, knowing that that's going to kind of take place, is going to make sure that there's a whole bunch of other stuff to do for the other players, so that while that thing's happening in the foreground, you can swing the spotlight around and we can see that every other character is also contributing to the overall fight, even if it's going to be mostly Bob and the villain fighting, or it's just we know that Bob's going to deliver the killing blow.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right. Next up, you want to have some minions and mooks involved. If you're doing a game where any sort of gang up at all is a big power shift, always have extra flunkies attack the heroes. This is important, especially important in games where there's action economy. If you've got a game where basically everybody gets 1 or 2 actions per turn, and you have 5 players, it's going to be 5 players attacking one villain. You need something else to go in there to keep the players from just jumping all over the villain and just beating them down in one turn.
Yeah, that's huge, right? Like, having lieutenants, minions, like all of those things are definitely important. Our last tip, again, this one's from Jerry, and I think this one was exceptionally good. Do not nerf.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it twice because this is really important. Do not nerf.
No.
Whatever you design for your epic villain or the battle that they're taking place in, don't do it where the things that the villain has or does, or the terrain that they're in or whatever, nerfs the player's abilities, right? If the player is like a speedster and like all of a sudden you're fighting like on a glue factory, like you are it's not that you're making it challenging. You're denying the player their chance to do something cool.
Yep.
And every player in an epic battle wants to do something cool. If we go back to the Avengers, the fight for New York, Battle for New York. Mm-hmm. If you look at that carefully, there is a scene for every character where they get to do something cool.
Yep.
Right? And, if you nerf a character, and I hate nerfing characters, right? So if there's one superhero trope I hate more than any other superhero trope, and I think Jerry shares this one with me, is the hero loses his powers trope.
Yes.
Like, I didn't sign up to not see Tony Stark in his armor.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm here for Tony Stark in his armor. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
No, that's important.
It is. Well, it is important. And especially, again, if this is your epic battle and this is the thing that's going to lead to the end of this arc or the end of your campaign, putting something in it that negates one of the player's powers, like, it's pretty weak sauce. Like, if you're like, well, the players have powers that are going to overcome this bad guy, like, then go do your homework. I don't want to be mean about it, but like, if you're worried, like, oh, they have scry and teleport, then you need to do better than just like anti-teleportation field. Like, you need to up it. So,
and one of the ways to do that is if you don't want a player to just take the villain out with an overpowered thing, have the villain have something that the player's special move will destroy. If the villain is going to be overpowered and he's got his, techno-organic master staff, and somebody else has the ability to do a massive amount of damage, maybe the first round you destroy the staff and the villain loses some abilities. The player's like, wow, cool. I just did this cool thing. I didn't destroy the villain, and you didn't nerf the player, but their attack had some visible effect. So they don't feel like they lost their ability to do something.
Yeah.
Well, and that might be the first layer of the boss, right?
Yes.
So the first layer of the boss might be getting rid of those things so that you can actually then do all your shiny stuff. But I will say, just whatever you're like, oh, it's the first layer, don't have it be like, oh, the player's powers don't work. Like, that's the worst one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just, my own personal soapbox on that one. I hate that thing. All right. Anyway.
You know, Rad, tell you what, on my account, this is one of my big hates also. So,
all right. So this battle is going to be pretty busy from the GM side. So first of all, you're going to have to do a lot more prep than you might be used to, right? If you're running a low prep game and you want to do an epic boss battle, you're going to have to actually do some prep, right? Like you're going to have to do a little bit of work, probably proportionally more than you do for the game normally. So if you're running Dungeon World and you're doing no prep, then you probably have to do a little prep. If you're running, Pathfinder and you're doing a lot of prep, you're gonna have to do a lot more prep, right? To do this epic battle. It's also going to be a longer scene to run. Epic battles, if done properly, just take a while. When I did our epic battle for Iron Heroes, our what was that, Bob? Was it 2 years, 3 years campaign?
3 years.
3-year campaign. We all knew what the epic battle was going in.
Yep.
I just set aside a whole 4-hour session that was just the battle.
Yep.
Like the session before, they arrived at the battleground with the Demon King. And then I was like, cool, next week we'll do the battle. And it took 4+ hours.
And we cut that previous session a little short too. Like
we did.
It's like, well, we're there. Next week is the big finale.
That's right. We're there and we're done for tonight because there's no way we're starting the epic battle
and then pausing in the middle of it.
And pausing, right? Like, no. So that was Iron Heroes is a D20 game, and that was an 18th level D20 encounter, which means that we put 4 or 5 hours straight. Like we started that session with roll for initiative, and we ended with some exposition after the battle, but it was a lot. What that means is you're going to be running the scene. It's going to be long. You're going to have to factor in pacing and timing. You're going to want to, you're going to want to be conscious of those beat changes, get that role playing parts in, have other things at stake, those kinds of things.
Awesome. Okay. So those are the 3 E's. Let's check in with the chat room and see how things are going, and then we can get back to discussing more about epic boss battles.
But first, Bob, tell us about another show on the Misdirected Mark Network.
The Gnomecast. Several gnomes from Gnome Stew get together to talk about gaming topics and themselves in an effort to entertain you and avoid being thrown in the stew. Check it out. All right. Our chat room friends. So we had a couple of good comments in the beginning. Chromatic Chameleon had a countess manipulate the players to recover several potions of human control that she later used to take control of the Thieves Guild and overthrow her dad, nearly killing the PCs, one of them who was in love with her. So there's some good personalized...
We got all sorts of betrayals.
Yep.
I like all that.
Jared Rasher has always said that in Star Wars, you need to give the Empire a face. You can dislike the Empire, but it's a lot easier to hate a named Inquisitor, an Admiral, a Moff, somebody like that.
Agreed.
Jason Pitt, welcome to the chat room again, said, have the bad guys convince your loved ones that the villainous perspective is the right one.
Oh.
So that your family is like, no, you're doing this. You're all wrong. You're in.
Oh no, that one almost hits too hard. Like that's. I mean, like there's a modern version of that, like where you're, Anyway, I won't get into it. Yeah.
And Jared said, "What about having an 80-plus-year-old legendary hero suddenly reveal he was part of an evil organization the whole time?"
So I love those reveals. I love those reveals, but I love them better if that is not the beginning of the epic battle. Like, I like that revelation's made and then the villain slips off, right? And then you
get to stew on it for a little bit.
Yes, that's like you need to one, you need to stew, and 2, you need to be like, we gotta go get prepared.
Yeah,
right. Like we got to get to work. And again, that's that. Good, Jared.
I think that's pretty much the plot of Neverwinter Nights and both Knights of the Old Republic serials, is that the good guy turns out to be the bad guy at the end, and it works really well for the betrayal.
I mean, here's the thing about betrayals, right? Betrayals work really well because betrayals are very bleedy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Betrayals hit you personally because at some point in all of our lives, we have been betrayed somewhere. And it is impossible when you are betrayed in a game for it not to bleed through on some level. In fact, I have such an anxiety about betrayals that it's sometimes an off-limits thing for me. Not so much as an NPC PC betrayal. A PC to PC betrayal is almost a no starter for me in every instance. So if having an NPC go bad like that, like I would be like, oh, you monster, like I will destroy you. That's great. But if one of the players was like, I've been effing up things all along in the background because I'm secretly the villain, I would probably X card my way out of that game, right? I would just be like, fuck no, I can't do this. Like
damn it.
No, I have a thing about friends betraying that's very triggery for me, and I don't like it. So I don't like PC versus PC games to begin with. I'm not like I don't derive any enjoyment in any part of that. Even if I win, I don't derive any enjoyment. So for me, I like the betrayal. It's a very good shortcut, right? Like again, if you look at the Italian job, right? The first part of the Italian job is an establishing of competence, right? They're doing the heist. We get to showcase all of the characters' coolness, right? And then we get to showcase their personalities and their competence. The next section right after the heist is the betrayal, and that betrayal is palpable.
Oh yeah,
like they kill a character. They kill a character, right? Steve takes all the money, all of that stuff, and then they basically restart the film, right? Like, and you are from that point on, you also hate Steve.
Yep.
Like, there's never a point where you ever think in that movie, like, nah, maybe they shouldn't steal that gold back. Yeah. Right?
The first time you see Steve again after the gap, you're like, oh, Steve, that fucker.
Right. And so betrayal is just, it's a human instinct, and it is a really quick shortcut to provoking emotions because it is a bleed. Like I said, it's bleedy. It goes right through the character and hits you.
Yep.
And again, it's like I said, it's a good tool to have. It's a good tool to use. I will say use it carefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Always.
Jared also said, what about the investigative campaigns where it takes a while to finally see who the actual villain is or what they are up to? Asking for a friend, wink, wink.
I love those. Having run conspiracies in the past, I love as a GM, and this is selfish as a GM, the moment the players put it together and are like, oh my God.
Like you can see the light bulb moment.
Right. And then they're like, now we have to kill them. Right. Like as soon as they put it together, they're like, and now they have to die. And you're like, yes, like stuck the landing, right? Like,
there you go.
Those are great.
I will say be careful with your betrayal adventures, not to let it out of the bag too early. I have played in several games where we just don't trust the main villain right from the get-go, even though they're supposed to be our friend, because something about the way the GM portrays them makes them untrustworthy. And so their big betrayal was like, yeah, we saw that coming.
Yeah, I think, I mean, again, it's an exposure thing, right? The more exposure you've had to the person who's going to betray you, the bigger the betrayal is, right? Yeah. So if you do it really early, the betrayal is like, and then it also sets that bad precedent, which is, oh, apparently NPCs betray people around here.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so, too early, and you're like, I guess if it's been done to us once, it can be done to us again. A mid to late betrayal. We were brothers, Anakin, right? Like that moment, right? Like if Anakin had gotten bad in episode 1, we'd be like, right?
Yeah.
But when he goes bad in episode 3, and Obi-Wan's discovered what he actually did, right? Like it's just gut wrenching.
Yeah.
And again, not that those are my favorite movies, but that scene, like that whole scene kills me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It works very, very well.
Yeah. So again, careful with your betrayals, but betrayal is a good tool. I did like Jared also have Dr. Octopus marry Aunt May. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Also,
I remember that.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
Also, yes, walk in to be like, find out your villain. Find out your villain is, in love with a relative or, Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The boyfriend.
Vampires dating my mom.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Because that's great because it builds up the triangle of tension, which is you're against the bad guy. The bad guy either does or doesn't care. Like, it's even better if they actually do care about the person, about Aunt. Like, it's even better if Doc Ock really does love Aunt May.
Yeah.
And then you love Aunt May. And so now you've got the triangle.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter who wins this fight, the person on the outside of that triangle, on the final point, is going to get hurt.
Yep.
Yes.
And so if you beat Doc Ock and he's gone, now Aunt May is lonely, and you did that.
Yeah.
Right? And now you have to live with that.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you'll be like, no, he had to go. That was Doc Ock. Aunt May still hurt, and you were responsible. That's a gut punch. It's good. That's good drama.
Yes.
Excellent drama.
All right. That was good. Now, in the second half of the segment, we're going to roundtable a few questions about epic boss battles, starting with the following.
Question number 1. What is your favorite epic boss battle you have run? And what about it really shined for you?
I'll go first. I have an adventure for Savage Worlds in the Literature campaign called The Spectre of the Stage, and it ends with a big boss battle in an abandoned theater. It's basically a reverse Phantom of the Opera thing. First, we've got the Spectre. He's there. He's kidnapped somebody that's important to the players, and he's standing high on a balcony wielding his magic and leading the corrupted chorus. On top of that, we've got the corrupted chorus themselves, who are twisted singers. They're creating a cacophony of twisted sounds that make it difficult to concentrate. And on top of that, the person the heroes are trying to rescue, who's a love interest of one of their friends, is tied down on the stage, slowly being corrupted by the Spectre's magic. So there's a clock on this. They've got to finish the bad guy off or stop the chorus from singing before their friend's love interest becomes twisted forever. So they have to deal with all that in a limited time. And it was set up so that the scene is set so that the sneaky archer and the sneaky druid have something to do. They get to get in there, they get to do the rescue, they get to move around and not be seen. The feline bard is there, and he gets to use his music and his song magic to basically overcome the corrupted chorus. And lastly, the sorceress and the priestess can cast spells that allows the troll to get in there and get stuck in. And these are all the heroes. So there's rows of seats to hide behind, all the curtains and debris in the back of the stage for rope swinging and high archer perches. And at the very end of it, players did well. The troll decided to pick up the concert grand piano, use an amazing feat of strength and a few bennies, and threw a piano at the Spectre while he was completing his incantation. So when all things got desperate, the players all opened up an opportunity for the troll to do his thing, and I did not expect him to pick up a piano and throw it, but he did it. But it all ended up being an epic fight that they still talk about today. We like to joke around about picking up a piano. Whenever the troll goes into any place, they always try to keep him away from any of the large musical instruments, that sort of thing. But it kept it going. But the scene was written. Now, these were all pre-generated characters. It was a one-shot. But the scene was written so that everybody had something to do, and everybody had overlapping things to do. So that if they didn't decide to do that one thing they wanted, they could still do something else. And I think it's probably the most successful big boss battle I've done that I think was actually memorable. Bob, how about you?
I literally have nothing. I used my brain for something out of all the campaigns that I ran back in the day, even my 4th edition campaign. I can't remember one memorable.
How about when you played?
Yeah, how about when you played?
I'm probably stealing Phil's thunder here.
Probably not. I got one that I picked one. I think I picked one that you won't pick.
because the best one I ever played was the fight against the Demon King in the Iron Heroes campaign. That was ridiculously epic. And it was, the vast majority of its epicness was the build-up, because it was a 3-year game and we knew that was the culmination. We had to get to that point because that was the end goal. The Demon King was going to go down and we were going to take him down. So we knew for 3 years that was coming. But that build as we went along, and then there were a couple of reveals during the course of the campaign where things were revealed about my character in particular, that made it even more compelling, because my character was, long story short, a religious figure who was designated as the vessel of the Allfather. And what we originally thought that meant was that I was like, like the, kind of like his agent on the planet, in the Prime world. What it actually meant was the Demon King literally could not be destroyed. He could only be contained. And I was the container. So we had to defeat him in the battle, and then I had to take his life force into me and hold him for eternity.
And be forever in prison.
Yeah. And that was just mind-blowing.
And I don't think the other 2 players knew that heading into the battle.
No, they did not. I kept it from them. I knew about it. You knew about it. I think a couple, maybe max.
Yeah.
At Gen Con, we had that moment where you gave me a note and revealed it to me. It blew my mind.
And the epic stakes for the battle was that the Demon King was going to open up the ground and release the Titans, which were which were the creatures that created the universe. And they were definitely going to F everything up if they got out. Yep. So there was a countdown thing going with that, and there was I spent I think the better part of a week and a half building the stat block for the Demon King. The Demon King was designed to hold up against the players, knowing who the players were, because the Demon King was fully aware of who the players were. So it was a big fight. And in that epic battle, you also dealt the killing blow.
I did.
On a critical, no less.
I also had an epic moment where the Demon King was going to try and do an overrun move, which is essentially like a trample, a bull rush, whatever you want to call it. And Phil rolls his die for the bull rush. And for my opposed roll, I dropped a natural 20. And I literally just stood up to him and let him bounce off me.
The beginning of that fight, he trampled everyone. Yep. He would run through and trample 2 people and hit someone with a sword. And so I was lining up to do it again. And I'm like, well, he's coming right at you, Bob. Roll strength to resist. Yep. And he had a big bonus, but I literally rolled a 2.
Yeah.
And Bob rolled a 20. And I was like, well,
I summoned the will of the Allfather and stood my ground, and he bounced off me and fell prone. And it was like, oh, he's prone. This is the moment. This is the moment.
Yeah, because prone was going to allow you to do precision damage, which is the Iron Heroes version of sneak attack damage.
Yeah.
So Bob then steps over, everybody takes a hit on this guy while he's prone.
Everybody got a hit, and then I leapt on top of him and just pointed my bow down. I was an archer, and I had the archer feat in this game that let me use it in melee. So I just stepped on his chest and just went boom, 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 and unloaded on him.
Oh, it was
glorious.
Bob wound up critting in that series, in that volley of arrows. We actually had to, and this is, I think, so classic D20.
Classic D20.
We had to actually pause for about 7 minutes so Bob could add up the damage.
I had to roll all my rolls, write the numbers down.
Wow.
He had to literally the game sat in hung in the air for 7 minutes, and then Bob comes back and he's 237 points of damage.
I want to say it was 230 something, 240 something. It was glorious.
And I was like, well,
Wow.
He's definitely dead. And then like we, it was really good.
So yeah, that was my favorite one.
I don't doubt it, and I don't doubt that. So I will pick another one for mine, which is I really liked, and this one I'm going to put quotes around battle because it was Tales from the Loop, and so the kids don't really battle in Tales from the Loop, but the final showdown between the kids and Bob's character's Aunt Lena, the mad scientist, as she, quote, offers to help save Glenn's character, whose mom was phasing in and out of existence, but was really a cover for her to destroy the loop.
Yep.
And the players catch wind that she's going to just try to destroy the loop, and they set out to come up with a plan to counter her and save Glenn's mom. And do this while they broke into the loop, which has got, all sorts of security. And it was just a big, it was a lot going on in those couple scenes that led up to the finale. Plus we had the drama of Glenn trying to get his mom back. And it was Bob betraying, I shouldn't say betraying, Bob turning on his aunt. Yep. And having to subdue her. Although I think the robot did the subduing, but you guys had taken over the robot.
Yep.
And it pulled in the players pulled in NPCs from past sessions to help pull everything together. It was big. It was good.
That was a good epic final.
The stakes were huge. She was going to blow up the loop, and if you failed, you also wouldn't have retrieved Glenn's mom.
Yep.
Which had been the whole arc of that of our game. So yeah, it was big. All right, Jer.
Okay, so Phil, what is your trickiest part of an epic boss battle when you're running or playing it?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the trickiest parts is to remember to change beats. I'll start getting sucked into the battle part of it, and I'll start to way over focus. That epic battle that Bob's talking about had no dramatic parts in it. It was a 4-hour D20 slugfest until the drama didn't happen until the Demon King was killed. It would have been cooler if we had a few moments of dialogue with the Demon King conversing back and forth or whatever. But man, we were it was all out. It was an all out throwdown. So yeah, I do have, as much advice as I gave about switching up beats and making sure that you have room for dialogue and stuff like that. I sometimes get caught up in the action and sweep past it. So it's a thing that I have to kind of consciously remind myself of, either in my notes or on an index card or something, is slow down, change beats. Bob, I don't know if you have a if from either from jamming, or if you don't, not from a jamming, but from a player perspective, what are some of the tricky parts of fighting an epic boss battle?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the player's side, when you're in that epic boss battle, it's balancing what you're going to use, managing those resources, because especially if there's minions, okay, if it's not just characters against the big bad villain, like the Demon King, it was 4-on-1, 3-on-1. So, that was it, Well, we had those gem things that were feeding him power that we had to deal with too.
Well, and that was the thing, right? You had to destroy those gem things.
If you've got the big bad and you've got minions and other situations going on, you want to be able to still say you've got that one big power that you've got. When do I use that? Do I save it for the big bad, or do I use it to turn the tide with the minions or whatever? You gotta be careful. You don't let it all out too early.
Yeah, or worse, like you save it up too late and forget, like you don't do the cool thing like in the battle.
Yeah.
Like I totally agree, right? Like there's a resource management, tactical resource management thing going on.
Yeah, for me that would be the more tricky thing.
Cool. Jer?
Mine, balancing too much power with not enough power. This can be complicated depending on the system. In Savage Worlds, your boss can drop in one turn if you're not careful. You've got to have something in place so that it's going to take more than one turn. At the same time, bad powering can mess things up. Back when I was running my the Mage Lands campaign with Dargan Abed from earlier, the original party all died when they fought a Beholder. And I forgot that nobody in the party had decent ranged attacks. Oh. There were 10 players and 2 NPCs, and the best attack they had was a spellcaster and a thrown dagger. And once the beholder turned the spellcaster to stone and then used telekinesis to start beating the other players with the stone spellcaster, he just stayed up. They could not hit him. And they were throwing daggers and rocks and stuff at him and trying to cast spells on him. But his anti-magic ray kept that. And that's what I was planning. And very quickly he destroyed the entire party. And disintegrated the item they were trying to keep from being destroyed. So
you killed the other players with the petrified player character?
Yes.
I'm tipping my hat to you, sir. Like that is...
I mean, if you're going to do it, that's the way to go.
That is salt in a wound, my friend. That is just... That's great.
It's like getting in a street fight, tearing a guy's arm off and then beating him to death with his own arm.
It gets worse because the whole campaign was about the players found this like minor artifact that they had to basically save until they could destroy it later, because when it gets destroyed, the big bad gets let loose. The player carrying it got disintegrated by the Beholder, and so it got disintegrated. So when we picked up the campaign with a new group of players, the big bad was already loose. Wow. I had to deal with what happened. Yeah, so that changed the whole scope of the campaign.
I love it.
But yeah, it was bad, and it was. I hadn't run a Beholder since first edition, and now I'm playing third edition. It had been 15 years or whatever it was, and the Beholder did some serious damage to that party. They went looking for him though with the new players, with the new characters when they got up there,
as they should. I will say I share your fear in Savage Worlds, right? Savage Worlds has that weird thing, and I've had it happen where somebody rolls to hit the big baddie, and you still have a stack of bennies, right? So you got a bunch of bennies next to you, but they wind up with like a weird chain of exploding dice, and they suddenly generate a damage number that you're like, no amount of these bennies is going to get me to that number.
They have solved that problem.
Oh, thank goodness.
In the new Savage Worlds, you can do no more than 3 wounds to somebody in one attack.
Oh, see, so that's lovely, because that was a huge problem. Like it was entirely possible for a player on a lucky shot without even spending bennies, just on a D6, getting a couple 6s, suddenly generating a number that you're like, I can't roll over this number.
Yep.
Like unless I also get a chain of exploding dice, and now we're just playing like really bad probability games.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I've done as a house rule is that the villain can spend 3 bennies to ignore one attack. Like they just shake it off, but now their bennies are gone. Yep. And because the villain only gets 2 bennies plus whatever the bennies that the
GM has,
that the GM has, that they might not have enough. So if the players think their way through, at the same time, if it's an epic attack, and I've had this also happen in other games, where games like Rollmaster, any game with exploding dice,
yes,
or even Star Wars, where the players just roll well enough on a really epic opening volley to take the bad guy out. Sometimes that's okay. If the players are all behind it and they're excited about it, like, we might take them out. As long as everybody's having fun.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, there are times...
especially if they did it when doing something cool. Like if the troll had, in the opening round of that fight, picked up the piano and killed the bad guy with it with a thrown piano. the players would have all been excited about that. He threw a piano.
Yeah.
So, but it's got to be something. The end of the villain has to be epic, one way or the other.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So if the epic kill shot finishes the fight early, it's still pretty epic. But you know, it is that thing where if you are in a system where that kind of thing happens, you have to kind of take that into account for your your epic boss battle. It's harder to do something like that in D&D, although I will tell you the one that, you know, I don't remember. I don't know if it's a 5th edition rule, but in 3rd edition, any attack over, 50 hit points triggered a save versus death. Like, you better make sure
damage room.
Yeah, you better make sure your villain has. You better make sure your villain has a fort save. Like,
yep.
Anyway, yes. All of those things.
Yes.
I agree. Like, and balancing the power curve on your game has a lot to do with your system mastery of the game. Like, understanding if you're playing a game that's really crunchy, understanding how to tune the villain properly. If you're playing something that's more forgiving, like a Fate or something like that, it's not really that critical. But like, I'll tell you, when I made the stats for the Demon King, like, I sat down and went to work, right? Yep. Like, I was like, okay.
That was not an easy build.
No, and what I did was I looked at all your characters, because I had all your characters, right? And I was like, where are you guys roughly in terms of bonuses? Where does this character need to be roughly in terms of bonuses? Attack, like, how much attack damage does he need to be able to do? All of, like, I worked a lot on that character because I specifically knew this was the culmination of 3 years. This character had to land just right. And even then, you're opening it. I think your first volley of attacks did so much damage that I had to pull hit points out of the obelisks that I had, which was a plan from the beginning, that I'd have these obelisks full of additional power that he could draw from.
Yep.
I like had to snuff one whole obelisk after the first attack, and I was like, holy shit. Like, this is like, for all this planning, their first volley wound up, you know, I had to make some on the fly adjustments to just tweak it right. Anyway, question 3.
Question 3. What is your special sauce for running a good epic boss battle?
I like a combination of terrain and dialogue. Create situations at a time where the heroes will have a chance to show their abilities. If you've got players that like to do dialogue, have it there. Have some sort of romance. If somebody likes to get up on their soapbox and have their speech, give them a chance to do that. This is the time for them to kind of wield their Shakespeare a little bit. If you've got a chance to put a loved one in danger, give them a chance to be the one to go rescue them or set the plan in motion to rescue them, all that kind of stuff. Just basically, I'm really more about creating role-playing encounters in the epic battles. Most of the games I play these days, with a few exceptions, don't tend to have long fights. I mean, I don't want to have a 4-hour fight. I used to play GURPS and Dungeons & Vigilantes. I don't want to have a 4-hour fight. I want a fight that's going to last, you know, half a session at most, if less than that. So I don't mind if it's done early, and most of my players don't mind either. But I want to have them have something else they can do. So give them some training ahead of time. Come up with what can the players do. You know, you have somebody who's got climbing, give them stuff to climb on. If you have somebody who likes to use cover, give them some cover. Give them ropes and chandeliers and all that kind of stuff. And the minute a player tosses something in, yes, there, you know.
Yep, there's one of those too.
Any, you know, broken tables? Yep, go for it. Yep, exactly. That's what I want to do. Give them lots of stuff they can work with.
Yeah.
And how about you, Phil?
I think my secret sauce for an epic battle is a countdown timer. I will almost always have some sort of countdown timer in my epic boss battle. I find that countdown timers, clocks, whatever, almost always works to ratchet up the tension.
Yeah, that's
right?
a good tension one.
That, like, seeing that, you know, seeing another token getting added to the pile or a thing getting taken off the pile, whatever, like, that will always ratchet up tension.
Or your giant D6. Pick it up and roll it to another number.
Change the giant D6 from a 2 to a 3. What the fuck is going to happen, right? Like, so I love those because that is always, and we did this eons ago when we did an episode on clocks, but I also like my clock to roll backwards, because now that not only creates tension, but creates the difficult decision. Do I attack the bad guy, or should I spend my turn pushing the clock back? Right? This is the equivalent of Forbidden Island, right? The game Forbidden Island. Like, do you bail, like, do you sandbag the tile to keep it from going under? Or do you or do you keep exploring, right? Like, I love if there's a ritual, I have mechanized the ritual, right? And it also does another thing for me, which is I don't want to be in control of like waiting an hour into the adventure and being like, well, the ritual never, or I guess it's the opposite way, right? You hang the ritual out there and then you don't mechanize it. So the players fight and they're worried about the ritual, but it's really just like narrative dressing to go beat up the bad guy. And then, oh, look, we beat the bad guy and the ritual never went off. I put the ritual on a clock with some rules around it, which I explained to the players. And then I don't take ownership of the ritual, right? Like, I put it out there. I told you what you need to do to stop it. And I will use part of my resources to advance it. But like, if it goes off in the middle of the battle, I don't know if it is or isn't. You don't know if it is or isn't. It's exciting. It's exciting for me. You could you could defeat the bad guy and still have the ritual go off, in one of my epic battles. There's no guarantee that won't happen. And by putting it on a mechanism and then making the mechanism transparent to the players, I have removed my biases from it. And then in which case, now we're just playing to see what happens.
Yep.
And for me as a GM, that's as nerve-wracking as it is for the players. Because now I'm sitting going, holy shit, is this thing going to go off and like tear through their, through their kingdom? I don't know. Like, maybe. So yeah, I love that. That's my secret sauce. I will almost always, for an epic battle, put some sort of clock countdown constraint, something. I think for the Tales from the Loop one, it was an extended challenge, and there was only one shot at doing it. Like, you either bring her back or it's not going to happen. So I gotta say,
I do like when players either use the villain to stop the clock.
Oh yeah.
Or use the clock erupting and opening the portal to kill the villain.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, rarely does the completion of the clock mean that the bad guy is free from danger. It's almost always it's just as dangerous for the bad guy as it is for you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So that's going to conclude our discussion of epic boss battles.
Yep. We hope
next. Sorry, go ahead. I don't took your line this time. Go for it.
You know what? I took yours. You take mine. Go ahead. Take it.
Anyway, we hope that next time you plan on running a battle, that this advice is going to be helpful to you. You get a lot of advice, and hopefully it'll help you out.
Yeah.
Bob?
So let's check in one more time with the chat room before we close up on this topic. Jared just had a nice comment in here. The timer dice from Annihilation in Marvel Heroic were great. If it stepped up beyond D12 without the characters attempting to defuse the thing causing the timer, it split into 2D12 that the GM could spend to end the scene, quote, appropriately.
Ooh,
so it's like, you better try and stop this thing.
Uh-huh.
That's a nice way of adding that stress. Those visible timers, visible clocks are one of my favorite things because it gives you that tangible thing and you're seeing it and it's there. Phil picks up the big D6 and it goes from 2 to 3 and you're like, oh boy.
By the way, when we say big D6, we're talking about a 96 millimeter D6, right?
It's literally bigger than your fist.
But it is it is a fantastic visual reminder on the table. Like, it is inescapable.
Plus, if you put it down without putting it down gently, it'll make a little clunk.
It definitely will clunk. Yeah.
I also like Jared's comment that if you're playing a superhero game in an existing IP, make sure your players actually take that character seriously so they ruin the mood of the climax.
Absolutely.
Yes. It's one of those things why I don't like playing. I don't like playing IP stuff.
I don't like playing the characters in IP. I don't mind playing original characters in an IP, but I don't like playing like we're going to play Captain America and Thor and Loki and that kind of stuff.
I would agree. Like if I'm going to play like an Avengers, like a Marvel superheroes Avengers thing, then I want to just make sure that like everybody, like Jared said, I want to just make sure everybody's on board. Like, all right, you know how you're playing this character? Like, are you prepared to be Cyclops, Phil? Yes, I'm prepared to be brooding and have eye beams.
If you got a player that's got Wolverine and they're playing Wolverine more like Deadpool,
right?
No,
exactly.
You're blowing the whole thing, man.
Right, then just play Deadpool.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to be funny and murder things, just play Deadpool.
Deadpool doesn't have claws, man.
He's got swords. It's like the same thing.
Yeah.
And I've seen the same thing happen in games like Call of Cthulhu in that, where the players just don't take the setting seriously.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard part because if you don't buy into that, or you don't buy into, if you don't buy into the horror, like the alien horror of it, right? Like like I'm not okay, right? Like it. You don't have to curl up and into a ball of fear, but it's like if you're just like I get it. Like there's this big tentacle thing coming up out of the water, like you're like not doing that game justice, right?
That's session 0, setting expectations, and you have to submit to the conceits of the game.
I agree. That's a very what you call it. It's an important way. It's hard to do that at a con game. It's much easier if you're doing that with your home game. Like, hey, this is the tone we're going for. Are we all on board? You can do it with a quick little mini session 0 during a con game, but you never know how people are going to.
Yeah. There you go, Jared. Jared had a Deadpool in their breakout game, and they ran into a T-Rex in the Savage Land. Deadpool threw Banner at the T-Rex. Banner turned into the Hulk, and then the Hulk used Deadpool as a club to hit the T-Rex. So, that's appropriate Deadpool-like behavior and consequences. So
what he's mentioned Breakout like 3 times. What is Breakout?
It's an adventure for Marvel Heroic where people broke out of the Raft prison.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Sure, because it's always safe to keep all the supervillains in one place.
Yeah.
Nothing could possibly go wrong.
Well, as they once said in V&V, it's always easier to break into a prison than out of it.
Yep.
Good stuff.
All right. Well, let us do the thing where we slide on into the conversation corner.
Yep.
By me doing this. Boom, 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 boom. Yay.
Yay.
Welcome to the conversation corner. Jerry, what's been going on?
A couple things. See, we had a Call of Cthulhu game last week, which is Chris's Wild West Call of Cthulhu game, which is getting pretty serious. The game started out with 3 of the players arrested and the other 2 having to figure out a way to get them out, and then followed up by that with we're basically in a town where everybody is paranoid about a possible impending plague, and there's something underground that's making the ground shake.
It's not something. It's a giant snake.
Well,
I saw it.
Yes, that's true.
I saw it, and I'm not okay.
No. It's very tense, and it's a lot of fun because of that.
Yeah.
The tension's good. We also had Glenn, a friend of the show, started his Kids on Bikes game. The Aegon game that we were playing came to its campaign end, which is how Aegon is designed. And so Glenn decided to run Kids on Bikes, and it's a lot of fun. We created characters with some very complicated relationships. 2 of the characters are siblings. One of the characters has a crush on another one who doesn't know they exist, that kind of thing going on. It's a lot of fun. And we've our special character in Kids on Bikes, if you haven't played Kids on Bikes, all the players have character There's one NPC that's the special character, the 7th character if you're familiar with Stranger Things. And that character is controlled by everybody. And everybody randomly has control of their abilities. Ours is a robot, which is going to be interesting. So basically, Johnny 5 meets E.T.
80s robot?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see. With the nice weather and based on Phil's inspiration, I decided to do some bike riding. I've got a really good neighborhood for bike riding. So the first couple of days I did about a half a mile. And the last couple of days I've been doing about a mile and a half. My asthma has set up the limit on that, but it's been really nice to get out and do some bike riding.
Cool.
Kind of had a sort of vacation, but that didn't work out as well. But I've been having a lot of fun watching some horror movies. I'm a big horror fan. I love horror movies, good movies, bad movies, schlocky movies. As long as they've actually got horror and it's not the main character is just mentally insane or it's all a dream, that just does me in. I'm talking about you, Shutter Island. But the horror movies that I've been watching have been all over the place. Some have been good, some have been bad. It's been a lot of fun. And I saw some stuff I didn't expect to see. And lastly, we're finishing up was it week 5 of our MMP fantasy football, and I'm not sure if any of the players on my teams remembered how to play this week. I'm so far behind. But it's been a lot of fun.
That's a common problem.
Bob?
So I finished season 5 of Clone Wars, and moved on into season 6. The latter part of season 5 has some really good stuff in it. There's an episode that I like to call CSI Coruscant, where they're trying to forensic out the mystery of who blew something up. And of course, this week we're finishing out season 3 of DS9 in the Watch Club. Looking forward to some more of that. Supernatural is back. They had a big hiatus because of the COVID plague.
Whoa, Supernatural? What?
The final season, season 15, they had 7 episodes to go, and 5 of them were in the can already. They needed to finish filming 2 of them, and they had to wait until after they got through part of the summer's COVID problems.
I seriously thought that show ended like a year or 2 ago.
No, the 7th to last episode just aired this past Thursday. And it's glorious because they have this montage. Long story short, and no spoilers for anybody who's really interested, but they have this montage where they're going out from their bunker to fight monsters. And basically every scene is them leaving the bunker. Then they kick in a door and they come in with various weapons. And sometimes they like take an attack at a monster, or sometimes they just come in the door and they pose. And one of the times when they come in the door, Sam comes in holding Mjolnir. He's literally holding freaking Mjolnir. And it's like a 3-second click. And if you weren't paying attention, you'd miss it. Yeah. But I looked up and I went, and then it was gone. And I'm like, okay, that was funny. So looking forward.
Was it the one from the Marvel movies?
I mean, it sure looked like it. So I don't know.
That's cool.
We, of course, we had another session on Thursday of Quest and Eberron that Jared's running, and that was a load of fun. And then Friday night we had our 5e Streets of Avalon, which was even more fun. So Jared's having a hell of a fun time running that stuff for us, and we're having a fun time running it or playing it with him. And then, of course, Sunday we did our Numenera game again, where we did a whole bunch more world building and role playing, and that was a load of fun. So yeah, we're enjoying the games that we're running right now, and I think that's about it. Phil.
Yeah, mine overlaps a bunch with you guys. I've been playing Minecraft, like I said, and I've been playing Hades, kind of switching back and forth between those, enjoying both. I have been watching Voyager. I'm I think halfway into season 4 of Voyager. For those who've watched Voyager, these are the Hirogen episodes, which is pretty cool, actually. Voyager definitely went up a notch starting in season 4, and I got some theories that I put out there. I think I know why now. I like certain series based on the showrunner. Season 4 is where Jerry Taylor takes over Voyager, and I think season 4 is some really good Voyager. So I've been watching that. That's been really enjoyable. I'm watching DS9 along the way. That's a rewatch for me, but I'm enjoying it. Over the weekend, as I've been doing all through the pandemic, I've been making brunches on Sunday. I made my scallion pancakes and pot stickers. I totally got that one down now. Like, that one's not an experiment anymore. That one is just like every 4 or 5 weeks I make it because it's just good. It's just delicious.
Yep.
Maybe when we come out of quarantining, I'll just do it on a larger scale for all you guys. Make some scallion pancakes and a whole bunch of pot stickers. Anyway, that's been fun. I've been riding my bike, weather permitting. It's getting tricky now, right? So one, it's fall. It's starting to rain. So I can't ride in the rain because I don't have rain gear. Nor do I really want to ride in the rain.
Yeah, I don't like riding in the rain.
I don't mind riding in the cold. I bought all the cold weather gear. And again, because I'm a kind of a big guy, I couldn't actually get like bike gear, but like I got this nice Columbia light windbreaker, and I got skull caps to put under my helmet, and I got riding gloves, and I got Adidas windbreaker pants. And so I'm good now. I'm good for the temperature to be in the 50s. Like, I can ride in the 50s and not be cold. Like, I'm fine. But I will say the one thing I did that I'm really proud of this week is when I bought my bike in August, one of my goals was that I wanted to be able to ride out to the park where we hang out instead of having to take my car. It's like a 2-mile ride out and a 2-mile ride back. And I wanted to be able to ride out there and do that. And I hit a bunch of smaller intermediate goals building up to it. But Bob, Glenn, and I had Columbus Day off, and we decided to meet at the park. And I was like, I'm doing it. I'm going to ride my bike to the park. And I did it. I rode my bike out there. It was the 2 miles out was a piece of cake. Bob was nice enough to stop at my house. I left it outside for him. He picked up my camp chair, so I didn't have to ride with my camp chair on my back. Picked up my camp chair and brought it with him, and brought me a coffee. Thank you, by the way.
You're welcome.
And so we hung out, got to hang out with Bob and Glenn outside for a while. That was great. And when it was done, I got on my bike and rode home. Although the entire ride home was into the wind. So it was not as much fun. Yep. It was a harder ride. But I did it. I did not die, which was one of my concerns. I'm a big man, and that was a lot of exercise in one day. It was I think it comes out to, it was a 4.5 mile trek, round trip. But I did it. So I got to check off my goal, which was to make it out to the park, because we have this really cool thing. They're all over New York State, but there's one here in Buffalo where I think it's called Rails to Trails, where they tore up an old train line that was no longer train tracks that were no longer being used, and turned the whole thing into a bike trail. And from my neighborhood, I can ride up to that bike trail and then get on it and ride straight down to that park. So it's really nice, and it has nice crosswalks, and it's like super safe. So it was really, I was really pleased that all my kind of building up my ride endurance and things like that I don't want to say culminated, but I don't think there's going to be any more. I don't think I'm going to break any more records for my personal records for myself for the rest of the season. I think I'm just going to keep riding my my 2.75 mile circuit until I can't ride because it gets too cold or starts snowing. It's going to be one of the, it's a race, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think my cold weather gear is going to be good until it hits the 40s. And then I got some serious concerns if it's warm enough. So I think I'm good for the rest of this month and maybe into November. But for as many Novembers as we've had snowy messes, I've had an equal number of Christmas Eves where I've been out in my front yard in a t-shirt. So,
and who knows, in Buffalo, you could ride your bike straight through Christmas.
I really could.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna, as long as I think I can keep riding, I'm just gonna keep riding my bike.
Yeah.
So, but I was, I was worried when I was worried when I first got it that I wasn't gonna stick with it. That I wouldn't want to keep riding, or that somehow riding wasn't going to work because of my size. But as it turns out, none of those things are true. I love my bike. And when I'm done riding it for the season, I'll be sad and put it away. And then I will just long for spring when I can get it back out on the road.
Cool.
That's me.
The one thing I see in my neighborhood is I've got the wind to deal with. The wind where I live is I'm a straight shot from the lake to my house, and I have had the wind move a 20-gallon Tucker tote with a 25-pound bag of salt and push it up my driveway all by itself. And a couple of days when I was out riding, I was like, this is really nice. And then I turned into the wind, and it was like going up a steep hill. It was a different situation. Kept me cool, though. Yeah.
No, I mean, that happens to me quite a bit. There's, depending on how the winds go in my neighborhood, the first leg of my ride is sometimes like a mile straight into the wind. And there are times where I've actually had to downshift into a lower gear and just go slow, like through the wind. And yeah, it's sucks. Like it just, you're huffing and like, and I mean, you're big, like I'm big. So like when the wind hits me, like I'm like a fucking sail, right? Like when the wind hits me.
Yeah.
And my bike is not light, right? Like I'm not light. My bike's not light. Like, so as soon as you put a resistance against me, like it's a hard ride. Yep. So usually that first mile of my ride, if it's windy, can be pretty brutal. Like it can just be really draining. And then finally at the end of that first mile, I make a 90-degree turn. And now like I've got the wind like just coming as a crosswind.
Blowing you off the trail.
And that one's actually a little easier, the crosswind. And then on the last, like on the next turn, the next 90-degree turn, then I have my wind at my back and I can like take off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, I feel it, man.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, I
gang.
think, you know what that means?
Yep.
It is time for Patreon shout-outs. Thank you very much to Joe Rasso, John, MT Black, Matthew Petrozelli, Padme's Lover, Robert Dorgan, Ryan Bolter, Texas Bento. Now I want a bento box. And Troy Pidgelman. Thank you for being our patrons, and thanks to everyone for listening tonight.
If you are free on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. the Queen's time, fear not, my friends in the chat room. The Queen was busy with family stuff tonight, and will return next week. Come join us live on Twitch, where you can chat with the other listeners in the awesome chat room for life and ask us the occasional question.
And if you cannot make it to the live show, check out our podcast each week, wherever you get your podcasts. Take a listen to some of the other shows of the Misdirected Mark Network, such as Down with D&D, Bone Storm Obsidian, the FM Gamers, Panda's Talking Games, the Gnome Cast, Sean Who Hustle, She's a Super Geek, and Bonus Experience. You can and should also check out our sibling podcasts, Tabletop Bellhop, The Knights of the Night, and the always amazing Gaming and BS.
Before your players enter the battlefield to confront their epic villain and stop their epic plans, you can reach us by leaving us some feedback. Hit us up on the old-fashioned emails, mmp@misdirectedmark.com, or check us out on Twitter. The show in the network is @misdirectedmark. He's at Robert Everson. Damn it. He's Robert M. Everson. He's GM Gerrymander. And as always, I'm DNA Phil.
Phil. If you like what we do here and on the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, you can support our Patreon campaigns. MMP, Down with D&D, and Panda's Talking Games are at patreon.com/MMP. She's a Super Geek is at patreon.com/SassGeek. Zhang Hu Hustle is at patreon.com/Zhang Hu Hustle. And Bonus Experience is at patreon.com/Bonus Experience. Patrons of MMP, Down with D&D, and Panda's Talking Games get access to the after show, pre-production show notes, musical parodies, the Panda's Talking Games bonus outtakes, and other special releases.
This has been a Misdirected Mark production. the media arm of Encoded Designs. Mic drop.
Yow.